Hey, what's up guys? This is Kendall and I'm going to show you guys how I edit GoPro photos in Lightroom. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. I've had a lot of people ask me what I do to edit my photos. Definitely planning on doing some more tutorials in the future, some more in-depth stuff, but for now I'm just going to start with a really basic overview of what I do to my GoPro photos. Alright, so when we first get the photo into Lightroom, bring it over here into develop, and first thing I want to look at is the temperature. Here's the photo straight out of the camera. Usually I like to put a little bit of warmth into my photos. With this one though, I'm probably just going to put a tiny bit, probably less than 5, probably about 3 ought to do it. I'm going to skip over tint for now. Also going to skip over exposure and contrast. We'll work with contrast in the sliders below. Alright, so highlights on this photo, I'm actually going to bring down a little bit. I don't usually bring down the highlights that much, but I'll probably bring them down to about 45. Just kind of trying to clear up the background here. I don't want them to be too blown out, so I get a little bit more detail out here in the background when I pull it down. Shadows, I don't want to take out too many of the shadows. Usually if you're pulling out the shadows, you're going to lose detail in your blacks, so I like to, as much as I can, leave them there and then mess with the blacks and the whites. When you go over to the whites, I'm probably going to want to bring it up a little bit, just for a little bit of contrast, and then I'll bring my blacks down about there. And this is just creating a little bit of contrast, so when you bring up your whites and bring your blacks down, your foreground is definitely going to get a little more contrast if you've got some heavy blacks here. And that is also, or is already starting to look a little bit more contrasty. Next, I'm going to go down to clarity. A lot of people abuse clarity and bring it up and it gives it that really HDR look. But I really want it to be a realistic looking photo, so usually when I do portraits and stuff like that, I don't usually bring up the clarity that much. Usually for landscape and stuff, I'll bring up the clarity, but for this, I'll bring it up a little bit, about 12. In all these settings, you never really want to overdo anything. You don't want to bring up your vibrance or your saturation all the way, or your clarity. You want to just kind of do little bits at a time, and that's what's going to work best for you. So for for vibrance, I'll bring it up to about 17. Really don't want to overdo it. Really gets that fake, oversaturated look, and it just looks like you don't really know what you're doing when you kind of just throw the saturation and vibrance all the way up. People are just trying to catch your eye with bright colors, when in reality it just doesn't really look that great. I'm going to leave saturation where it's at. I usually don't touch saturation with GoPro photos, especially for what we're doing now. We're just kind of basically just color correcting. I'm going to go down to the tone curve next and throw a little bit of an S curve into the tone curve. So when you pull up here, you're basically bringing up your whites. It's just kind of a more controlled setting. And then when you bring this down here, you're bringing down your blacks. As you can see, when I pull that down, the blacks kind of come in a little bit more, but I definitely don't want to pull it too far down. I just want a tiny little bit of a curve to get that contrast. Usually you can bring up your whites a little bit more on top than you want to bring your blacks down. So that's about right. So just a little bit of a tone curve really makes the foreground pop. Let's go down here to saturation. You can get a little out of hand with the HSL saturation here, but I do like to bring a little bit of green in if I've got green, so it'll basically saturate just the green colors. Maybe a little bit of, not blue, let's bring in a little bit of aqua, because I really like this color on the roller coaster, but I don't want to bring it in too much or else it'll start to show up here and on the horizon. Let's play with the red a little bit, kind of make the seat here pop, and we'll call that good. I'm going to sharpen the photo a little bit. I'm not going to mess with much else, but if you guys want to sharpen your photos, don't overdo it. It's going to bring in some noise into the photo, and you don't really want to do that. Well, it's really close up of my face, but all right, about 50 in the sharpening. And I'm trying to go decently fast, so you guys don't have to sit here watching this for a super long time, but I'll definitely do more in-depth tutorials later. This is just an overview. I like to put in a little bit of a vignette. However, in this photo, it kind of is weird because it darkens my legs here and also darkens the highlights or the horizon. But you can take that out. You can take out the vignette on the highlights right there just by bringing out highlights, and then we'll keep our white horizon. If you don't want to do that, you can just leave it like that. I think it looks all right, but I don't like that my legs are darker here than the rest of my body. So what I'm going to do, this is a little bit more of a complex edit that I'm going to do, but it's still pretty simple. So I'm going to go over here to my brush and reset the settings here and brush over my legs. And if you look here at the brush settings, I have it feather at 85, and that's standard, so I'm just going to leave it there just for this edit. Maybe if I was taking longer to do this, I would spend more time on it, but I'm just going to bring up the exposure for that brush, kind of brighten my legs a little bit. I'm going to brush a little bit more. And that way I don't have those dark spots. I'm not sure what was causing that. Probably the shadow from like the roller coaster or something like that. But I think that looks a little bit more natural. My legs aren't dark. So that's basically it. That's what I would do with this photo, just bringing it straight in and just kind of brightening it up a little bit and making it a little bit more contrasty. There's not much more you have to do than that. I think it's a pretty good edit on a photo, but there are a lot more complex things that we can do, but we'll save those for future tutorials. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please let me know. I'm definitely willing to do more in the future if I get a good response. So thanks, guys.